Federal judge has denied former Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan's request for an acquittal. Now, in December, a jury found Dugan guilty of the obstructing a proceeding before a U.S. governmental agency felony charge.
Told us just moments ago that Judge Edelman has ruled no prison time for Hannah Dugan.
Good evening, beautiful people. So, as you see, this case has sparked national debate over immigration enforcement, judicial accountability, and whether the justice system applies equally to everyone. Former Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan has officially been sentenced after being convicted of helping a Mexican immigrant avoid an ICE arrest inside a courthouse. But here's the craziest part. She won't spend a single day behind bars. Let's discuss why prosecutors wanted prison time and why the judge decided otherwise, and what this could mean going forward. Welcome to Nellie Miranda. As always, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. But let's rewind back to where this all began. Back in April 2025, federal immigration agents were waiting outside Judge Hannah Dugan's courtroom to arrest Eduardo Flores Ruiz, a Mexican national who had appeared in court on misdemeanor battery and domestic abuse charges. According to prosecutors, Judge Dugan became upset when she learned that ICE agents were waiting outside. Rather than allowing the arrest to occur in the hallway, she escorted Flores Ruiz through a private jury door and allowed him to temporarily avoid federal agents. Now, to be clear, he wasn't able to escape permanently. ICE agents eventually caught up with him outside the courthouse after a brief foot chase and arrested him anyway.
Outside Judge Hannah Dugan's courtroom were agents from ICE, FBI, and other federal agencies. On April 18th, they planned to arrest Flores Ruiz after his hearing. Prosecutors say Dugan ordered the agents go speak with the chief judge in a nearby office. And then prosecutors say she went back into her courtroom, brought Flores Ruiz to a non-public jury door, which leads to a hallway with two doors.
One of the doors leads right here to a flight of stairs, which takes you all the way to the next floor. But Flores Ruiz did not use this door.
Instead, surveillance video shows him and the public defender leaving through the second door, back into the public hallway, feet away from Dugan's main entrance and a waiting agent. Agents said outside they chased him and finally arrested him.
He was later deported after serving time on an immigration offense, but prosecutors argued that that wasn't the point. Their argument was very simple. A sitting judge knowingly interfered with federal law enforcement carrying out a lawful arrest. They argued that Judge Hannah Dugan's actions strikes at the integrity of the judicial system itself. The case became one of the biggest legal stories during President Trump's renewed immigration enforcement efforts. Federal prosecutors charged Dugan with obstruction and concealing a person from arrest. At trial, the jury convicted her on the obstruction charge, but acquitted her of the concealment count. That conviction carried the possibility of prison time. Federal sentencing guidelines suggested somewhere around 15 to 21 months in prison. Many expected at least some jail sentence would be given the public attention surrounding the case. But instead, today, the court imposed a $5,000 fine. No prison time, just a measly fine. That's it.
A former judge convicted of obstructing an ICE arrest will spend no time in federal prison. Hannah Dugan was sentenced today in federal court to a $5,000 fine after she was caught on camera helping an immigrant who was in the U.S. illegally evade ICE officers there to arrest him. A jury found Dugan guilty of obstruction last year. Dugan's case drew a lot of attention as the Trump administration looked to prevent people from interfering with its immigration crackdown.
The sentencing judge, Len Edelman, acknowledged that Dugan made what he called a bad decision in the moment. But he also pointed to several factors that influenced his decision. She had decades of public service. She had already lost her judgeship. She now carries a felony conviction. She reportedly received threats against herself and her family. And according to the judge, those consequences were already significant punishment.
Maggie, remind us what Dugan was convicted of back in December, and what can you tell us about this sentence that she was given today?
Sure, Kate. It was a federal obstruction charge, and we had that security video in the intro. That's video of the judge back in April of last year talking to ICE officers, telling them to go to her chief judge's office. When they did that, she admits she went back into her courtroom and helped Eduardo Flores Ruiz and his attorney leave through a separate exit, basically helping him evade arrest by ICE. She could have faced up to 5 years in prison, but today, the judge in her case, the federal judge, assigning her a $5,000 fine for the entirety of her sentence. The judge in the courtroom saying that Dugan is, quote, an otherwise good person, upset by immigration policy in this country, a sentiment shared widely, saying she made a bad decision in the moment. Also going on to say this conviction affirms that no one is above the law, and adding there's no need for prison to protect the public, basically given who she is, guys, her age and background. But again, this case was a bellwether for so long around the Trump administration's immigration tactics, and this sentence getting a lot of headlines just happened in the last hour.
Judge Hannah Dugan herself continued maintaining that she wasn't trying to undermine federal law. She argued that the prosecution had become politicized. She told the court that she was simply trying to do her job while maintaining order inside of her courtroom. Her attorneys argued that the federal government was making an example out of her to discourage judges from questioning ICE operations inside of courthouses. But prosecutors saw things very differently. They argued that judges possess extraordinary authority, and because of that authority, they must be held to an even higher standard. According to prosecutors, when a judge uses the prestige and power of the bench to interfere with law enforcement, it damages public confidence in the justice system. Their position was essentially this: no one is above the law, not even a judge. And I completely agree with the prosecutors on this one. I am not saying that grandma deserved 5 years in prison or even a year, but no jail time based off of the fact that she's never committed a crime and being committed to public service should have not shielded her from accountability when she broke the law. And it's really not about Hannah Dugan personally. I am sure she is a wonderful person, but this sets a dangerous precedent. Judges can break the law so long as they committed their life to doing good. I don't know. It's nonsense. Will the justice system give regular citizens that same benefit of the doubt? No. So again, this sentencing proves that judges are in fact above the law. But the real questions that many are wondering is, should judges have discretion to question how federal immigration enforcement is carried out inside their courtrooms, or once federal officers are lawfully carrying out an arrest, is it the judge's responsibility to stay out of the way? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. However, Judge Dugan has not given any interviews since this debacle happened back in April 2025, but here are some quotes that she said today in the courtroom. Take a listen.
Today was the first time we've heard from her. We have some quotes if we can bring those up on screen. She told the courtroom, quote, "My acts that day were consistent with the community concerns." You can see these there. She goes on to say they were not done with any malicious intent or to advance any personal interest. And then she said about the aftermath, quote, "I've been cast as both a scofflaw and a hero. I am neither." She said, "I'm a public servant trying to do my job." After the sentencing, her lawyer spoke. Listen to this.
She's lost so much throughout this process. The collateral consequences to her were great, and we appreciate that the judge took that into consideration whenever he sentenced her to a fine only in this case. As for the next steps, we look forward to appealing this case to the Seventh Circuit.
So, of course, we will be watching for that appeal. It's worth noting federal prosecutors, Kate, declined to comment today.
For many Americans who support stronger immigration enforcement, today's sentence may feel surprisingly lenient. Some will ask, if an ordinary citizen intentionally helped someone evade federal agents, would they also receive only a fine? Others will argue that because Flores Ruiz was ultimately arrested anyway, and because Judge Dugan has already lost her career, additional prison time wasn't necessary. Reasonable people can disagree about the appropriate punishment, but the conviction itself establishes an important legal principle. The jury determined that a judge crossed the line from overseeing a courtroom to interfering with a federal proceeding. And one thing that is worth remembering is that the courts themselves rejected arguments that judges have blanket immunity for actions like these. Earlier in the case, Judge Dugan sought dismissal on judicial immunity grounds, But the courts ruled that the allegations went beyond normal judicial duties and therefore could proceed to trial. But then Judge Edelman said, "You're good, Hannah. You lost enough. Now go enjoy your retirement." Basically. I think this ruling may have implications beyond this specific case whenever judges are accused of interfering with law enforcement activities. But what is next for Hannah Dugan? Well, she plans to appeal her conviction. So while today's sentencing closes one chapter, the legal battle may not be over just yet. The little $5,000 fine isn't good enough for her. At this point, just give her job back so we can move on. Kidding. At the end of the day, this story isn't only about one former judge. It's about accountability. It's about the limits of judicial authority. And it's about whether Americans believe the justice system applies equally to everyone, regardless of their positions, regardless of their title. Whether you believe the sentence was appropriate, too harsh, or maybe too lenient, there is no question that this case will continue to be cited whenever the debate over immigration enforcement and judicial independence comes up again. But what do you think? Do you believe the $5,000 fine was enough? Should Judge Dugan have served prison time after being convicted of obstructing federal agents? Or do you believe that losing her career and receiving a felony conviction were punishment enough, considering her life of service and age? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you got any value from today's video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And ring the bell so you never miss any updates. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.